It's been sort of a rainy, crappy day, but the rain has stopped. It's a little too late to go to the High Line. I'm pretty sure it closes at 8 o'clock, but I had an important video that I wanted to do. I don't know if everybody is going to be interested in this or if it's just New York, but Letitia James. I guess everybody's interested, right? I mean, she was a major thorn in Trump's side. She's not just that, though. I mean, she's a lawfare queen, isn't she? I mean, she ran that whole Stormy Daniels fraud. She was more the fraud thing, but she was just everything. She was all over Trump. And now we have her indicted on mortgage fraud. There's a lot of questions around that. You know, we've got this new interim, super hot U.S. attorney. What's her name? Lindsay? Smoke show. But the thing is, I don't know if that's really, is that ideal? Is that maybe those hot women will get you every time? But focusing on Letitia James, who is the opposite of that. This is something that I was on a while ago. If people are following me on X at JG_CSTT, I published the articles there. They're free, most of them. I mean, certainly this one is. People can also follow on Jason Goodman NYC. But I don't have the article capability on that one. The main one is still at JG_CSTT. I was back in May, I think. You know, this story really came about first in March, right? Sam Antar was the first guy I heard talking about it on Sal Greco's show. That's where I guess started seeing Sam Antar. Do people know who Sam is? He's the cousin of Eddie Antar, who was Crazy Eddie. If you were in New York in the 80s, Crazy Eddie's prices are insane. It was a electronics store, something of a chain. They had a store in the town adjacent to my town where I grew up, and I used to go there, look at video cameras and electronics. I kind of loved Crazy Eddie and wild commercials and everything, but they got embroiled in a fraud scandal and they all got prosecuted, and Sam Antar rolled over on his own cousin and got him sent to jail. Pretty bad, pretty terrible story. I don't really like Sam. He's blocked me over this whole issue that I'm going to talk about, but I have a special episode right after this that people can watch if you sponsor the show on subscribestar.com or patreon.com or on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, or if you're following me on X, you can subscribe at JG_CSTT. You'll get the sponsor exclusive content there as well. It's going to be a deep dive into all this research I was doing. I've been sitting on this for a little while because it took me a long time to do it. And then by the time I got done, it was kind of like, yeah, nobody was really thinking about Tish James. And then pow, now she's been indicted, so it's back to the forefront. But see, I had this inkling back in March or April, May, when it was all happening. And now I'm becoming seriously concerned because Lindsay, there's questions about her appointment, and I'm not against her. I don't know really anything about her, but I'm concerned because we're hearing reports that, you know, she went outside the normal process of the DOJ, went behind or above, or somehow did something that Pam Bondi wasn't on board with. They wanted to indict in one of the district courts. They have different divisions in the Eastern District of Virginia, or different, do they call them divisions? They've got Alexandria, they've got Richmond, they've got all these different things. And I've tangled in that court a little bit. That's where Robert David Steele first brought his stupid fake lawsuit that he ultimately lost because he's a clown. And I think I've become certainly one of the nation's foremost counter lawfare practitioners. I'm not a lawyer. I don't claim to be. But I've come to know lawfare pretty damn well over 9 years, you know. I've said it before. It's like Tom Hanks on the island. First minute he's there, he's a fat, crying FedEx dude. Smash cut to 5 years later, and pow, he's spearfishing and he's ripped. I'm that spearfishing counter lawfare. Did I say Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, whoever the hell it was on the island? You know what I'm talking about. The point is, there's a problem with this Tish James prosecution, and it's got to do with Sam Antar. And let's focus on Joel Gilbert for a second, because I haven't interacted with Sam that much. They're both sketchy in the same kind of way, and what I mean is, when this started out, I've known Joel for like 6 years, maybe more. Had him on the show a bunch of times. He had a falling out with Larry Klayman, which I can understand. And I didn't speak to Joel for a little while. And then when Larry and I stopped talking, Joel had a new book out. I reached out to him. People remember he came back on the show. He was talking about his prediction that Michelle Obama would run for president. Didn't turn out. But it was an interesting book, and he did a lot of good research. Joel, he's a talented documentarian and filmmaker, and he's got a good style in terms of his fictional narratives that he weaves. Excuse me, not fictional, his docudrama, whatever it is. The guy can tell a story. This looks like a new restaurant. Pretty fancy. Anyway, this guy's wheeling around a giant stereo speaker. Who wants to listen to that? Anyway, the point is, those guys started reporting on Tish James. First Sam, then Joel. In a way that when I saw it, I sort of felt like, well, wait a minute, isn't Joel kind of like horning in on Sam's story here a little bit? But then they teamed up sort of right away, and I was like, yeah, all right, that's cool. I didn't know those guys knew each other, but whatever. And when I saw that, I invited Joel on the show, and he came on and spoke about it. And then a couple days or weeks after that, he sent me a text or an email, or I don't remember. He basically said, hey, I'm coming to New York with Sam, and we're going to go to Tish James' apartment building there. Remember, the story was one or the other. Sam was investigating her campaign finance stuff, and his whole thing is because he was arrested for fraud, he knows fraud, and now he teaches the FBI how to find fraud. He's sort of like that Frank, whatever that guy's name is, Abagnale from Catch Me If You Can, where now he's teaching them about fraud. So he's finding all these fraudulent things and property problems or whatever. And then it was Joel who uncovered this Cadillac funding loan where she claimed to be married to her father. And then separately, this issue that a 5-unit apartment building was declared as a 4-unit apartment building so she could qualify for this certain kind of federally backed loan. This is what he came on Crowdsource the Truth to talk about. And so when he called me and said, hey, I'm coming to New York with Sam, we're going to do a video, go over there. Do you want to do the video, Jason? And I was out of town, and I was a little disappointed because that would have been a great video, you know, have those guys busting Tish James. But I couldn't do it. And I decided, well, you know, I saw what they had done. They didn't do a video. They just had photos and things on X. And I decided to do a little research into Tish James, see what was going on, because I was on all these mortgages, remember, with Weissman and what's his name, Raskin and Tom Tillis. So I was looking into some of that stuff, and I found some interesting things. I published this neutron bombshell thread on X. It's still there. And look, I'm paying them tribute. I'm saying New Yorkers owe a debt of gratitude to Sam and Joel. I highlighted them, make them look like characters in a graphic novel or comic book or something like that. And I mean, look, it's got a lot of views, 100,000 views. It's talking about, this is sort of, you know, based on what Joel found, that she claimed to have married her father. And again, I was trying to buttress their reporting, you know, support it and everything, but I came up with some new stuff. The other thing is, remember, I still have my lawsuit against the city of New York, and I found out that she was dealing with this, you know, New York housing this organization that I thought was connected to the neighborhood housing, whatever, of New York. And then I used a lot of my Charles Ortel style research skills and found that there were a bunch of different versions of this thing that didn't have determination letters. They were giving Tish James loans and stuff. And it was like, wait a minute, this seems like some kind of a big problem here potentially. There could be more meat on this bone. And there she is at the Steaks and Shakedowns place. I thought those guys would love it. It was my way of kind of like trying to participate in their investigation, which seemed to be open to collaboration based on what was going on with Sam and Joel. But then Joel saw that and he got pissed. Right, well, so here, this is, well, let's look at that in a second. Joel sends me this crappy email.
He immediately sent me this email that said, though I appreciate your enthusiasm, I would say it's unhelpful when someone offers up statements that are untrue and not researched.
Well, my thing is, like, I also
I mean, what?
like an order of
I was taken aback. This is, I mean, it's not like some jackass on Twitter who I never spoke to. This is a guy who's been on my show that was totally flattering. I mean, I originally was like, oh, he must be jealous that because that was a big Twitter reach for me at the time, 100 and whatever thousand. It's still big. But, you know, I figured he was jealous. So he sends me that crappy email and I said,
So I responded, what have I said that meets that description? And he quips back, all of it. So I said, can you be any more specific than that? How have you determined that all of what I posted is untrue? I disagree, of course. So he comes back with this lengthy thing saying, you made a group of short one-sentence sensational statements on different subjects. It appears you just did some web surfing and jumped to sensational conclusions. That's not facts or research. Imagine if you had to write a full-length article supporting each statement with appropriate definitions and facts. Just a few. Who are the crooked nonprofits? What did they do and what makes them crooked? Foreign government bank? Is State Bank of India a government bank or a private bank? It's a public bank. Troubling history of massive fraud and corruption. If so, what is it? They don't. Took out a lien untrue. She took out refinancing loans, not liens. Bedford-Stuyvesant Division, is there some requirement that her property be in that area? Do you know what kind of loans this entity provides? Maybe it's for rehabs. Maybe it's forgivable loan up to a certain amount. Was the entity really concocted, fake? No, it was not. It appears your enthusiasm for the subject and my and Sam's work led to your jumping into making comments that are not facts and without any research. You'd be better off thoroughly researching each issue and presenting your findings if you wanted to make a contribution rather than making sensational, untrue statements.
I mean, can you believe that dicketry? This is not untrue statements, and it wasn't just web surfing. Like I said, I used my Charles Ortel learned skills, and this thing, the Neighborhood Housing Services of New York City, this was seemingly the thing, and it had, you know, several years of filing, multiple millions of dollars, etc. But then it also had, yeah, there's one EIN that it's using, notice 33. But then we had this other one, Neighborhood Housing Services of Brooklyn, Bedford, Stuyvesant. And I mean, I just, as I usually do with Charles, you start looking into this thing, no IRS determination letter, the office looks like a piece of crap. Why do they have two different things with close to the same name, doing the same thing in New York? Why do we need a different one for Bedford, Stuyvesant, Brooklyn than just the one for New York City? It's, you know, this was not researched, and everything else I said was sort of equally researched. That's the other thing. This started in 2014, and then this is from the New York Observer, saying that Tish James was accused of getting Sweetheart Home Loan in 2014. So I remember when I went into this, and I mean, this could be an episode in and of itself, but when I went into this, I was like, wait a minute, this looks like Tish James set it up just to, you know, get a loan and not pay it back. So, but it just was like, what the hell, Joel? Why are you being like this? It seems like if you're trying to prove that Tish James is a fraudster and doing all this weird stuff with loans and mortgages, like, why are you you're defending her? You're acting more like Abby Lowell than somebody who's trying to nail Tish James. So I wrote back to him.
I'm always open to correction, but I think you've misunderstood a lot of my thread. Over the past 8 years, I've identified many crooked nonprofits, initially in my work with Charles Ortel, and later on my own. Most recently, even before the Tish James story, I had already been investigating Neighborhood Association of Intercultural Affairs as it relates to my lawsuit against the city. Their COO is a convicted embezzler, and their role in city-funded housing scams is well documented. I initially suspected the neighborhood, whatever that thing is, might be related, but have been unable to make that connection. The State Bank of India is majority owned by the government of India, and it's legally considered a foreign government-owned bank. It has also been involved in many high-level fraud cases, including a $1.8 billion Nirav Modi case. I didn't come up with that. It's well documented. Mortgages are liens, aren't they? If you don't pay the mortgage, you can't sell the property because the bank has a lien on it. Refinancing simply replaces one lien with another, as far as I know. Regarding the Bedford-Stuyvesant thing, my concern is less about its location and more about how and why that particular lending entity was used. It's not properly registered with the IRS as a nonprofit. There's no evidence of a determination letter, which has to be public. There are a lot of other problems with it. The pattern raises valid questions about intent and structure. Describing it as concocted was perhaps somewhat hyperbolic, but not baseless. I'm using language I've learned from Charles regarding nonprofit law that you may be interpreting too literally. Also, I need to push back on your characterization that my process is simply web surfing. I've pulled deeds, property records, lien histories, IRS 990s, and matched them across entities and loan instruments. This is not a surface level effort. I'm disappointed that you've taken this approach. That tweet thread was admittedly crafted to draw attention and to simplify this incredibly dense topic, but I assure you the research to back it up with a well-detailed report was done and is at my fingertips should such a report become valuable or necessary. I credited your and Sam's work as the foundation. I respect what you've done, but your email struck me as unnecessarily dismissive and really unlike our previous communications. I hope you have a clear understanding of this now.
I mean, he's just such a dick. I was being overly diplomatic in that email exchange, but I was already super suspicious of how he was acting. Because basically every single thing he said in criticism was either wrong or nitpicking semantics. I mean, I spoke to somebody who is a mortgage expert who told me, well, you know, technically you're right, but nobody in the industry would describe it as a lien. But it is a lien. So it's like, okay, I mean, it's Twitter. It's an X thread. I'm trying to, you know, I was like calling her all kinds, like the queen of liens, and, you know, it's whatever. And he was accusing me of clickbait or this and that. Obviously, I'm trying to create something engaging about a complicated and, for most people, probably boring subject. Like, for instance, right now, doing this video at night. It's a little bit of a departure from what I normally do, but it was raining all day and I had a lot of counter lawfare work to tend to. George's brother is going super crazy, I think because of the really accurate research I've been doing into the Charlie Kirk murder. I don't think they would care if what I was saying was wrong and stupid. So on this whole thing with Joel, you know, he blocked me shortly after this all, but I'm going to do a deep dive back at the apartment as soon as I get back over there. People are going to be able to get that by sponsoring the show. Go to crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com and become a sponsor on there, or to subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And if you're interested in knowing about exactly what the hell is going on with Joel and Tish James and why is he defending her, because I think something very sinister is afoot. And I think I'm getting better at this, you know? Used to be that I would scratch my head and say, hey, why is this happening? But now I think I know these shenanigans pretty darn well. You're also going to be able to see it by following me on X at JG_CSTT and subscribing on there. You got to subscribe to get access to the sponsor exclusive content. And please do. This is the only way I earn money, not getting monetized on YouTube or anything like that. And it's viewer sponsorship that keeps Crowdsource the Truth going. By the way, it's also the same thing that George's brother is just desperately trying to stop. Today, tried to sabotage me. I don't even want to mention exactly the details of what happened, but it was an ugly, ugly situation. People might have seen it. Got to be careful. You can't issue statements that could be construed as true threats over the internet. You really run afoul of the law when you do that. And if you do it to somebody who is a lawyer, even if you don't think it's a threat, you open a window for them to be able to do things to you that you don't want them to do. And this is exactly what shitheads like George's brother are constantly waiting for an opportunity to do. So I had to spend a lot of time today counteracting that. But I wanted to get this story about Tish James and Joel Gilbert. Not so much on Sam Antar. I mean, he falls into the same category, but I'm going to focus on Joel tonight. So if you're interested in that, join me. It's going to start right after this. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and thanks for sponsoring the show.